Hello, my name is Amanda Lenhart, and today what I'm going to teach you about for my mini lesson is the concept of social interaction and how it plays into the theory of social development that Lev Vygotsky has put out there. Okay, so social interaction is what we're focusing in on today. For this lesson, the materials that you will need are some paper that you can write on and something that you can write with, because throughout the video we're going to be pausing it so that you can take some time to reflect on some of the questions that I'm putting out there, just to make sure that you're tracking along with what it is that I'm trying to teach you. So, Lev Vygotsky, social interaction. What's the deal? Who is Lev Vygotsky is the first question that we should answer. Okay, Lev Vygotsky was a Soviet psychologist from Russia, and he was developing theories and kind of doing his research around the same time as Piaget, Pavlov, and Freud. Now, we're all familiar with Freud and Pavlov, but Piaget and Vygotsky, I was not as familiar with. So his theories actually didn't make it over into Western society until the 1960s. He died at a young age. He was only 37, so a lot of his theories were considered to be incomplete. Right? So, Vygotsky's theory of social development. This can be broken down into two main principles. Okay? The first one is cognitive development is limited to a certain extent at any given age. And the second principle is that the full cognitive development of an individual requires social interaction. And this second principle is the one that we're going to focus in on today. Okay? The social interaction piece of this cognitive development theory and process. Okay, so what does all that mean? Okay, social interaction has to happen before a person can develop cognitively. Social interaction happens first, according to Vygotsky, before any cognitive development can happen. Okay, so what does that look like? What's an example of social interaction? One, parents teach their children concepts like language, potty training. Okay, they're interacting and then they're developing cognitively. Okay, another example is children when they're on a play date. When they're interacting with other students, they're learning how to share, they're learning how to collaborate, they're learning how to work together with others. Okay, so requiring social interaction. Neither of these things could have been achieved if the child was left by themselves. You can't just leave a child in a room and they're going to all of a sudden be potty trained. I know parents wish that could happen, but it doesn't work like that. You have to have the social interaction, the teaching aspect, in order for students or children to learn. Okay? So, I want you at this moment to pause the video. Well, not yet. In a second, I want you to pause the video because I have a question just to make sure that we're all still on the right track. According to Vygotsky, you tell me, which comes first? Cognitive development or social interaction? Okay, so pause the video. All right, so hopefully you said that social interaction comes first. If you did not get that, you want to rewind this video just a bit and look back at that last slide I discussed, because the whole base of Vygotsky's theory on cognitive development is that it is based on social interaction. Okay, so social interaction comes first. So, with social interaction leading us towards cognitive development, this can be broken down into two key concepts, okay, that I want to talk about. The first one that I want to talk about is the more knowledgeable other. This can be abbreviated as the MKO. Okay, so that's concept one. Concept two that I want to talk about is the zone of proximal development, which is the ZPD. So you want to write those down in your notes. Okay. The more knowledgeable other, MKO. This is the person that knows more about a task or a skill or a concept. It means exactly what it sounds like. It is the person that knows more about something, okay? Which is implying that there is someone who knows less, okay? In most cases, that's going to be the child or your student, but not all cases. I mean, in the case of technology, students or children oftentimes are the more knowledgeable ones than, let's say, their grandparents, all right? So I've given an example with yoga, and we're going to carry this yoga example out through the rest of the video. Okay, so we have here, this is our beginner yoga student. Okay, he is doing the basics. He's stretching. All right, so we have beginner yoga guy, and we have this yoga teacher. She is leading this class. So in this scenario, okay, take a minute and think. Who is the MKO, the more knowledgeable other. Okay? Hopefully you came up with the yoga teacher. She clearly knows more than this guy who's reaching for his toes, okay, with regards to yoga. Now, he may be the more knowledgeable when it comes to coding, but in this situation, she's the more knowledgeable one because she is the teacher. So, the first part of Vygotsky's theory of social interaction and cognitive development is that we have a more knowledgeable other, okay? We have a more knowledgeable other. Now, this more knowledgeable other is the one who will be doing the teaching, the imparting of knowledge onto whether it is a child, whether this is a student, whomever, okay? So, in doing so, they are dealing within the zone of proximal development, the ZPD. So, let's break this down. When you think zone of proximal development, we have this word proximal, okay? So, with proximal, I think of proximity, being close. Okay, so the zone of proximity, things that are close. And we're talking about abilities here. Okay, so we are talking about giving instruction or guidance that pushes the student just beyond their capabilities. Okay, so we'll say a student is performing at capability level number 1. Okay, so this is where they are right now. And the goal is to get them to the closest level that we can. We need to push them just beyond where they were to level 2. Okay, so all of this space in between here, this is called the ZPD. This is your zone of proximal development. Okay, we want to be in that range where it's not too hard and it's not too easy, that it is just enough to push them to grow. Okay, so if I were to have a level 4, whatever this concept would be, if this is a level 4, jumping from level 1 to a level 4 would not be the zone of proximal development. That is too hard. The student or the child is going to shut down and you've achieved nothing. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're pushing them, but not pushing them too hard. Okay, pushing them to the next closest goal that they can achieve. Okay, so now that we've established the MKO, the more knowledgeable other, and the zone of proximal development, I want to continue on with our yoga example. Okay, so we have our learner. Okay, this is our beginner yoga beginner. We have our learner. This is our beginner in yoga. Okay, so he has his yoga teacher there. Okay, and she wants to lead him to be successful in this yoga class. Okay, so in order for her to successfully teach him yoga, she needs to be instructing him in his zone of proximal development, taking his skill set and just pushing beyond it to where he'll be able to grow and not be overwhelmed. So, if he were to go from a basic stretch to an upside down scorpion, you tell me, would that be the zone of proximal development? Hopefully you said no. Okay, this is not a logical progression to go from stretching to doing an upside down scorpion. Okay, however, so this is not our zone of proximal development. That is a no. It's not what it is. Okay, however, if the teacher were to work with this student on downward dog, which is just kind of a bending over process, okay, this would be considered the zone of proximal development. This is a ZPD, and we're going to put a check. Yes, that is what we want. Okay, he's stretching, and now he is stretching in a different position. Now this is the teacher. She is our MKO, okay, the more knowledgeable other. She is teaching the student how to do the downward dog. Now she is starting off by instructing the student in all of the moves to make sure that he's doing it right, that his form is right. Okay, so lots of guidance. Now in order for him to progress in his yoga, he needs to do this on his own. She can't just be there with him for every move. So she starts off with a lot of guidance, and then she slowly decreases her guidance and lets him kind of take off on his own and just making corrections as she goes. Okay, so that is a great example of zone of proximal development. So after the teacher has instructed the student with slow guidance, slowly decreasing their participation in guiding that student, the end result, hopefully, will be that the student can perform the skill, the task, on their own. Okay? But he couldn't have gotten here without the teacher, the more knowledgeable other. And that's what Vygotsky is saying, that you need to have other people teaching you how to do things. Okay, you need to socially interact in order to grow, okay? Cognitively, physically, okay? So this kind of demonstrates the different concepts that Vygotsky is showing. Now, big question. how does this apply to education today? So what I want you to do right now is pause this video, and in your notes, I want you to write and do some brainstorming. How does this tie into education today, what we've talked about? I know that you have your own list. I want to talk about a few things that I came up with that tie in what Vygotsky's principles of social interaction are and how they tie into cognitive development with regards to education. Okay? So, students, they need social interaction with teachers or peers to develop cognitively and to make meaning. Okay? The more knowledgeable other doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher. It could be a peer. Okay, it could be a classmate that is better at a specific skill or that has better language skills or that is familiar with this task. Okay? Second thing, how does this apply to education? In the role of more knowledgeable other, the teacher needs to plan instructions and activities that challenge the students and push them just beyond their capabilities. Okay? That is the zone of proximal development. We want to make sure that we are pushing them, but not too far out of reach to where they can't do anything. And then another point that I came up with was that the teacher involvement needs to decrease as the students practice the new skills, allowing them to master the skill and create meaning. Okay, so this is kind of a fancy way to talk about scaffolding, saying that you're introducing with a lot of involvement, a lot of guidance, and then you are slowly decreasing the amount of guidance until you can eventually let the students go, and they've got it on their own. Okay, that is the same concept that we are talking about here. Right? So, Vygotsky, social interaction and cognitive development. Social interaction has to come first. People don't just learn things on their own. Okay? Within that system of growing cognitively, he has identified the more knowledgeable other, and that it's important to be operating within the zone of proximal development in order to get results that are desirable. Okay? Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments or send me a message through the classroom portal if you're in my class. And yeah, thank you.